Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode. In this evening's episode, I wanted to zoom in on this idea of experiencing higher speeds of projective design in the inner realms, pretty much moving as a subject. And I feel I've experienced this. I think everybody experiences moving as a subject, really. But there's a precondition of objectivity. To notice yourself as a subject prior to an object means the subject has to be more real for you than the object. With the type of civilization we have built that is grounding everything in just pure materialistic reality, there isn't enough room for the person to be a subject. It's very unique. It's like we have freedom of speech in this world, but we also have this idea called reality. And this is the most unique thing, that we don't believe in imagination, but it's there. We use the term. We notice the inner realm movement of what we call thinking to be seeing different angles to the moment. What does that mean? That means a person can hold an object in their hand, they could look at it from different angles, they could move the object or they could move around the object, and it's similar, where you can move yourself as a subject or you can move around subjects. Now, when I say experiencing higher speeds of projective design, the act of projection is direction. So right away we have two factors, you can say two components to the subjective entity. That it is in some sense design oriented by how the concept has generated. Every word has a design. Every word. Everything in this life has a design. If it doesn't have a design, it soon will. Man is that kind of animal. Just like there's multidimensional perspective accessible when looking at an object, it's the same for a subject, but it changes. That means when we look at an object and we're like, what else is there? We say there's some subjects there. The object-subject relationship, But when we ask, who is viewing the subject? That is when the question gets interesting. That's when language cannot contain reality anymore. Now, how do the inner realms move? How does one move? How can you experience speed as a thought in the void, pretty much? That's what the idea is suggesting. For a long time, the content of my experience and the content of my existence, I was considering them to be the same. I don't know what unique miracle happened that I noticed my experience of existence being different in regards to how it changes. Like, I don't know how to tell you this, but like experientially, we're living and dying all the time. Existentially, we're alive once. In the inner realms, it's instant, it's evocational, it's teleportation, pretty much. You can teleport into any visual in your inner realm by the mere vocalization of the word. That means right now when I think about people listening to these talks, it's in some sense image. It's a film. The way we make sense of things is through a continuity of form to form to form to form until we realize after eons we are formless. And this would be one of the most unique things, that if we start realizing there's a value to human experience that surpasses the definitions of existence, then for the first time man has become the spirit of time. There's this concept I tell people, and it's try to watch the soul of the moment. The soul of the moment isn't conceptual. It isn't even a karmic value where those people who deserve justice get justice. You know, the soul of the moment is the simplicity of how nature is being, regardless of what man does. The evocational nature of the inner realms suggests an instantaneity. That means when I come to speak about things, you know, it's like I have to climb Mount Everest, but to visualize myself at the top of a mountain instant. The moment I have seen a mountain peak, the moment I have seen an image of myself in the mirror, I am standing on that mountain peak in my inner realms. You see, that's the ability of the inner realms. It joins things as if it's spacious attention. And so I remember just all the teachers in my classes, they were like, when I was attending school, high school, they were like, pay attention. You know, I don't know how many, I can't tell you how many times teachers have told me to pay attention, but they never told me to pay attention to attention. So many people told me to pay attention in this world, but never to attention itself. That's a trophy that I found in a very difficult way. You know, sometimes in life I would say there's competition with the outer realms where the person's trying to advance something in the outer realms, and then there's competition with the inner realms where the person is wondering, who was I and who will I be, and who the future, when it's more exciting than the past could try to stop the future. You know, those who see the future are already there. That is the power of being able to even envision an advanced civilization in your inner realms way before it is in the outer realms. It's like an invention. The advanced civilization is the invention of 8 billion creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. If the invention doesn't have root, is not rooted in the inner realms, that means, think of Edison. The light bulb turned on behind his eyes first, then in front. He saw the possibility somehow, and then he manifested it, you know? Now, speed has to be comparative. What does that mean? That means it has to be, to some degree, a journey from point to point. That means if the person is attributeless, what would it imply about speed? You know, it's like if there's no point A to B, how could there be a sort of, you can say, direction is very crucial. I mean, it becomes velocity at that point. But something unique happens, that when the person doesn't have an expectation for the world, they get to see how the world happens before they do to it. I am currently, as I'm speaking, happening to the moment, not just part of the moment happening, you know? It's honestly like free will is so many things in nature, but we get to control a little bit of it, you know? That means some people, they're like, oh my God, you know, we're so small in the universe, this so big, what's the point? And some people are like, hold on, you're telling me in a universal phenomena, in a universal event, I can control a small part of the big? You know, there was this Japanese comic based TV show named Black Clover. And in it, there's this kid, there are these two orphans who are given to this church, and they're kind of like taken care by the church of this village, and then they go on being magical warriors or something, you know? But at the beginning, they have nothing. And when the kid gets this, like the kid, okay, long story short, the protagonist is very poor in a very low kind of like has nothing pretty much, then gets accepted based on his ability and skill to somewhere where they give the kid a room. But the kid, the main character, the room they give the kid is so small and messy, and the guy's like, sorry kid, this is like all you get. You're a newbie here, you're like new here. This is all you get. And the kid, instead of being sad how messy and small the room is, the kid is shocked, overjoyed. He's like, I have never been given a room. What the fuck? Like, the kid's freaking out. And that's how we should be for our civilization. That's how life should be. But we have not designed it so. We have allowed stories that deviate from our nature to rule us. And I would say a lot of people care for outer rebellion against some patriarchal system, some sort of enemy they have created in their mind. But before you kill your enemy, before you destroy your enemy, wonder, why were they here? I ask this for myself. The same way I look at the ordered phenomena of this world, and I ask myself, why is it here? I see, because man is. And then I ask myself, why is the chaos here? I see, because man is. Because you think the universe has an idea of chaos and order to itself. It is man's eyes that draws these lines. For all we have been doing is as an object of subjectively connecting points of experience between different objective moments. I have shouted at the sky many times, only to see that I have shouted at the endless potential of the mind to fathom. And the inner realms, they move way faster. I will tell you, it's like all our mythology. Where do you think it comes from? Where do you think the gods were? Where do the many people say in ancient Greece the gods were in the clouds, And people are like, oh man, they believed in gods on clouds. No. The clouds were in the mind of man. The clouds were in the mind of man. The ancient Greeks were right. Gods were walking on clouds, but not in the outer realms, in our inner realms. Do you know the majesty of imagery behind your eyes? Do you know how an imagery can echo? One of the most important things I've ever heard in my life, and I have no idea from which ancient Greek philosopher it came. I just know that it came from ancient Greece. And it was this sentence. The moment it entered my ear, you know how some sentences, you just hear them and it doesn't matter where the sentence came from. It's just what the sentence is pointing to. And so the ancient Greeks had a saying. They would say, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. And as the life of this world becomes gentle, the attention to the speed of how fast the world is actually occurring behind our eyes, it happens. We realize it. So now I'm trying really intently to, in this episode, give concrete examples. Trying to not hold back in examples of how I have moved in my inner realms. You can move. I have experienced it. I remember at one point in my life as a thought stream. I would call them consciousness streams. And what it was that I would sit somewhere and I had noticed at what speed I think. That means I know at what speed I tend to process things. And I remember I was sitting somewhere, and for the first time I had noticed in my inner realms a movement of dialogue that was faster. That means imagine okay, I'll give you an example. It's like somebody remembering a memory, but that memory was not happening in the way they remember it. You're remembering a memory, right? But as you are reliving the memory in your inner realms, the memory is not happening in accordance to how it originally was. There's a deviation, as if one subtle instruction from the present can make the person see the past in a totally different light. So I would say the situation was, I had noticed that it was as if a stream of thought. Okay, think as if you're looking at one river, and think as if there's a river beside it that's moving at a faster speed. I had noticed in my inner realms the movement of language was not my own pace. This was one way where I had noticed the speed of the inner realms. That the dialogue, the way that I was thinking in a certain moment wasn't the speed that I normally think. This world has passed the era of pointing fingers. That means on a ship, when there is a hole in a ship that 8 billion creatures are on, there is no pointing fingers, there is no fighting the captain of the ship to some degree. There is just fixing the holes of the ship or the whole thing goes down. Pretty much human beings act ridiculously peaceful or we all break in the void. And of course, on an individual level, that's the interesting thing about life. That's the whole justification of our selfishness. If we were all immortal beings right now, we would have actually be like, okay, we're immortal. What's the point of fighting? It makes no sense. Let's have discussions. Let's talk. But because we're temporary, we're like, let me take before my eyes close. And that is what's destroying this world. The lack of care that while you are here, don't take. The point of man existing is to give. I am telling you. It's like, think about the existence. What is the value of something temporarily existing? Do you know, it's as if there's ice cream in front of you. What do you do with that? Melting ice cream. You have a melting life in your eyes. What do you do with that? There can be no justification for chaos. If your attention is on chaos, you will lead the world to chaos. If your attention is on order, you will lead the world to your order. If your attention is non-dual, the world is no longer in pieces to need peace. You see, there's a type of peace that has to be set, has to be kind of placed. But then there's a peace that was already there. It just has to be realized. You know what that means? This is pretty much how world peace is going to happen for human beings. It's like all human beings on the planet who are fighting just stop for a second. Wait, guys. Are we all human beings? Are we all part of the same species with different DNA? And then suddenly, when that clicks in, that if the species, could you think about having 8 billion incredibly advanced allies and living in a civilization where you don't have to worry about knives being thrown at your back? Rather, it's incredible design, fast speed design. That means I honestly feel every employer should give the impossible to their employee. That means all managers should go look at the employee and see if the employee has potential for more, to give more. You know? And some people may say, no, too much hard work. No, I want an easy life. I'll tell you, what is easy about life? What has ever been easy? It is just a mesh of known variables and unknown variables, and moment after moment after moment. Do you know? We have created a world where time has become the god of our behavior. And it's a shame, because we created time. We gave it meaning and access and an Airbnb in our minds. Your attention will become free once an unfree version of you no longer walks this earth. And it's a choice. It is not an enforced choice. You see, that's the whole point about truth. Truth was here before you. You have to choose to see again from different eyes. When I say projective design in the inner realms, that's the nature of it being evocational. That means it's like, if people just notice what I'm doing right now, if I took a completely materialistic perspective, I am a unique biological condition that is wondering about itself in unconditional ways. That means the moment I become the definition, I see something more than the definition. The moment I become something more than the definition, I see another something more. And there is so much something mores in quotation in this life that I will tell you, it's like a mystery. It's a mystery event we're attending. And as we live it in accordance to our true nature or not, in accordance to the signals of the world event, that means one thing that I actually found interesting about religion, do you know? I saw a strange parallel between some sort of secular pattern of thought and some religious pattern of thought, you know? That the thing was, in religion, man is not the center of the universe, God is. God is the will of the whole mover of the whole thing, do you know? So because God is the center of the universe, man is seen to be an effect. The way the religious narrative is designed, you don't feel like this is, you feel like a guest in the world. You don't feel like the host. You don't feel this is your world. You feel you are in some world. But you can say, the same way the religious mentality was like, who am I when God is here first? Is the same mentality you can say is in the notion of who am I when, like, I don't know how to say it. For example, we saw ourselves as the center of the universe and then we didn't. I'm just saying that's how it's happening. I don't think actually there is knowledge ever. There is just endless experiential realignment that changes how the antenna receives the moment. You know, there's this great uh, saying, passage from this poet Rumi. He says, before death takes away all that is given, give away all there is to give. That means you are pretty much an energy pack, and you have to give the energy. You can use it. You use it to maintain yourself. Use a percentage of your energy to maintain yourself. But like how Rabindranath Tagore even says, like a person's there can be an emotional surplus. You know, one way of you looking at me as the listener could be like, okay, this person is like a cup. He's been filled to the brim. After he's been filled to the brim, whatever's being filled into the cup is going over the brim, over the norm containment. And I will tell you, the moment the water pours from the brim of the cup, the valve is open endlessly. The cup will realize it was never the cup. Consciousness is a valve. It's something that it may sound strange to us now with the consideration of an evolutionary biological being, but it's something that's switched on. It's a switch. Consciousness is a switch. And if it's turned on from here or from a way that here is here that we cannot see now that we are here, there's the story. This man is hopeless. This is a Gnostic story back in the day, during, you can say, Gnostic, in a Gnostic context framework. I don't know, see it maybe like 500 years ago or something, this story, or way more than 500 years ago. But pretty much the idea is that there's this man back in the day. He's hopeless, he's broken, he is empty. This man has looked at the world and he sees no value, no meaning, no purpose, and he's walking in the forest. And he looks at the sky with no sense of even belief or disbelief. He's like, okay, there's, life has become so pointless that he's like, God, if you are out there, show a sign. If you don't exist, then nothing matters anyway. And so the person is walking. They're walking in this forest. They've asked the universe for some sort of sign. It's like, what am I doing here as a being? You know, am I just here as a drop waiting for my evaporation, or is there something to move towards? But this man is hopeless. His inner realms have abandoned him. He's not an ally of his own mind. This man, as he's walking hopelessly broken in this forest, he sees something that the moment he sees this phenomena with his eyes, he covers his eyes. Can you imagine seeing something that is so shocking and so beyond belief, so it doesn't make sense, that the person couldn't look at it because it was unfathomable, inconceivable, you know? The person sees a wolf without limbs. A grown wolf without limbs, and the guy goes into shock. He's like, how could this be? How is this wolf alive? This doesn't make sense. How does this wolf get food? Like, this guy's being shocked. A limbless wolf is there. And he suddenly hears this growl, and he looks to his left and he sees a lion is coming. He gets up on a tree and looks from that view as if having like upper stadium seats, you know? And he sees this lion comes in front of this wolf and drops a chunk of meat, just food it has found. And the lion roars, making sure that there is nothing in the environment to bother this wolf, and the lion leaves. And this guy, who had asked for a sign from nature, is now just goosebumps everywhere, being like, okay, this was a sign, this was something, you know? And so the guy waits until the lion leaves. He comes down, he stares at the limbless wolf, he falls down to the ground in shock, and he's like, I'm the limbless wolf, and God is the lion, and this is the sign. This is the sign that God will help me. I'm this poor, hopeless, limbless wolf. God will help me. And the guy goes into the city from the forest, lies down on the corner like some defeated human being, you know, and just is waiting there doing nothing. He's like, I'm a limbless wolf. The lion will come and give me this. And while this is happening, a Gnostic priest is walking by. And this Gnostic priest, as he's walking by this guy, he suddenly sees it's odd. This grown man is like acting like a weakling on the corner of the street. You know, the Gnostic, just as he's walking, he just sees this odd situation, this completely healthy person having no sense of direction, you know, in life. And the priest just stops, looks at the guy, and the guy is standing there, you know, the guy even who's on the ground notices who the priest is, you know. And the priest, the Gnostic priest says to the guy, first thing, you don't speak to someone on the floor. He commands the person, he says, stand up. You know, that means the first thing you do when you see people don't have self-respect is you throw a mirror at lightning speed at them, you know. And so he says, stand up, and the guy stands up. And he says, I don't know like pretty much you can envision the story. The guy stands up, the person sees it's a priest, like some wise guy, you know, and the guy tells the priest the whole story. That's pretty much how the story unfolds, you know. They start talking, and the guy tells the priest, he went to the forest, he asked for a sign from the universe and truth, you know, of this world, and then he saw this limbless wolf, and this lion came and fed this limbless wolf, and he's like, what else could this mean? I am this limbless wolf. I have nothing. I can't go anywhere in my mind, in my vision. And he looks at the priest and he says, tell me, wasn't that a divine sign from the divine priest? You know better, tell me. And the priest looks at him and says, yeah, it was, but you got the first part wrong. And the guy's like, what do you mean? You know? And the priest says it was a divine sign. But what you misinterpreted from that sign was that the universe showed you that not to be the limbless wolf, but to be the lion. That means the guy just misassociated with the event. The purpose of that event was not stay weak because that's, if you even entertain a religious perspective, stay weak because that's what God likes, you know? The more weaker man is, the more defects the nature has, you know? And it's not that I'm saying we should all be like this sort of like, what is it, like an action movie. I'm not saying we should all live like it's an action movie, but I'm saying we should have the capacity for advancement the moment we want to. That means this would truly be the sign of an advanced civilization. If the advanced civilization wanted to instantly change, it instantly could. But now we're a civilization that can't instantly change. It's changing in such a random way where to me it feels like, I remember I was in Milan in a coffee shop and I wrote this when I like traveling sometimes. I wrote that this world is like this giant stone, and every philosopher, every human being's eyes that actually enter the simulation, they're sculpting a little bit of this giant sculpture where 8 billion hands and sights are designing it, you know? And that's what I want to see. I honestly feel the world is going to be saved not by superheroes. It is going to be saved by simple designers. The simple will save the complex from themselves. That man in the story realizes that this opportunity, that means you get, let's say you have a chance. Imagine like, you entered this game show and there were two doors, and they're like, all right, one door holds your most efficient self, and the other door holds your most inefficient self. Which one do you want, contestant? And the contestant's like, I don't know. I want to use help from the audience. And the audience is like, buddy, we don't know either. And the guy's like, okay, I can't use. That would be the most terrible audience in a game. She's like, hey man, don't ask us. We're just here to watch. We don't want to get involved in the world. We just want to watch it become advanced from a distance. You know? Seldom is this said, but life is a movie where you have for eons, for 4 billion years, just been an actor in. Now, with the development of consciousness, you can be a director in this film of life. You can direct the forces of nature as nature, whether as a concept or as an individual or a collective. And the whole point is we have to start the libraries of the inner realms. That means this is something that happens in any, you can say, multidimensional civilization. It doesn't matter where. You see, there are dimensions that are multiple in the outer realms. You could say, like, I use a perfect analogy. I say, imagine a cake. So you can have like 10 different cakes, or you can get one cake and make it into 10 different pieces. The multidimensionality of language and identity is like we breaking up the cake. The multidimensionality of there being actual parallel universes in a multiverse setting, that is like different cakes. And those cakes could even be cut up in their own ways. We don't know. That you can say this is Mr. Within's theory on black holes. I feel that we are in the pocket. We are in the black hole. We're like, what's on the other side? What's in the outside of the black hole? And so where light is not unauthorized, how could man's material-based knowledge be? That means it's like, imagine we have the most, here's the thing. Let me tell you, this is going to be, hold on guys, hold on. Let me check something. And I would say this is the sequence. We go from physics, we go from evolutionary biology to physics. From physics, we go to chemistry, but then from chemistry, we loop back into the biological experience. That means a person can see a tree, but actually they are never seeing just the tree, they are seeing the tree plus themselves. Do you see? That means I could tell you we never actually see the world. We see the world plus ourselves, if we choose to contain it. The study of light, the study of sound is the study of how the world began. And I will tell you, anybody who cares about knowledge, just ask yourself, where is all of knowledge? A lot of people want knowledge, a lot of people are paying for knowledge. In a world filled with information, we're paying for knowledge. Insane, no? In a universe endlessly just here for exploration, we are paying for our exploration. Shame on the world who has not seen the potential of its future yet. Shame on the civilization that has not seen its advancement. Because let me tell you, it is too easy to be hopeless. It is too easy to give the void a chance to nullify. That means if I choose to become irresponsible, do you know how easy it is for me to renounce the world if I don't care for it? Think of how easy it is for us to walk past people in streets when they're talking. But when a friend is talking, the person doesn't leave, doesn't interrupt them, sits there to listen. Our attention suggests what we care, what we can see to care about, what we contain to care about. And how we contain the world is the greatest reflection of how we contain ourselves. Because the self is made by the nature of being separate from the world. And I'm saying, okay, I have legs, I'm a creature separate from the earth, The trees are very different. Trees are, you can say their mind is the earth, their body is the tree. I would say for the human being, the mind is separate from nature to some degree. And it's not that it has always been. That means I feel we have memories of a collective being because that's how we started, but we have experiences of an individual being. And it's about that time where the person looks in the mirror, fixes their tie and is like, all right, the collective being is dressed for work. It's like the person, like you could say a lot of young children, their attention, and you think of countries where religion is very open. Some countries, people don't know this, church and state haven't separated, Literally, people have to know religion if they want to know the laws of the country, literally. But I would say that any system that doesn't change isn't from this world. The biggest sign of the extraterrestrial is what is uncommon to the common definition of man. That means this idea of people being fascinated by aliens. Did you know we are aliens to the aliens? Everybody is an alien to everybody else in the galaxy. And the whole point is not for man to care for cooler toys of image for the bewildered mind, but to get ourselves towards poetically galactic diplomacy. That means I want to see the day where there is not human beings on this earth. There is just universal beings in the universe. That will be such a remarkable day. That would be a day where the poetry of the ancient world was spot on. You know, guys, one evening I was listening to my own talks, and I remember I was scrolling through this website and I saw this quote from Hafez on the internet, you know. And the quote was from Hafez where I don't remember the exact, it was part of a poem where he said, he said the beloved, me, and the friend. Hafez in his poetry, he speaks about the friend. Now, some people wonder if this friend is the beloved or is something else. I am telling you, Hafez knew I would be talking about him. The world knows itself because it is not separate. I am telling you, energy, the reason it cannot be created or destroyed, because there from the beginning was nothing to be created to destroy. Energy is like something without being something. And so that's kind of the nature of consciousness's continuity beyond sensory perception. The friend is the suggestion of the new. That means I honestly feel human beings have one major responsibility. Shield the eyes of the future generations from mistakes that are unnecessary to repeat. That means for me, the most important thing the future can do is listen to itself before it listens to the past. There's something about the world that it's preparing itself for its own arrival. Just like how the inventor notices the invention in the inner realms way before it is in the outer realms. Sometimes when I give a talk, I actually, from the moment I wake up, I'm actually building it. I'm noticing everything. And when I notice something new about the day, then I create that, turn that into a talk, really. The clouds will lie to you, but the sky can never. Temporary knowledge is nice. Unconditional knowing instantaneously is great. And so do we want to build an advanced civilization? You know, I mean, theoretically, like just thinking about it in an incredibly common sense way, unless there's an advanced individual, why would there even need to be an advanced society? That means it's like the first question should be, who are we building an advanced civilization for? And that's when we will know how the individual needs to be in society. Nature has a voice, and that voice surpasses words by light years. Nature is giving a briefing. I would tell you, I wouldn't be even surprised if there is at the edge, at somewhere in this universal sector, like a speaker. Imagine in a house party, like a giant speaker, signals of intelligence being projected. You know, I have this personal theory that I feel this, if we were an advanced civilization, or from the Kardashev scale, if we had become a type 2 civilization that was harnessing, was controlling the energy of its sun, of it, the star of its solar system, I would say the sun is the best broadcasting system for intelligence. That means if we realized that all planets are made of random stuff, random particles, let us say potentially intelligent particles, that means if we think that planets have the potential for intelligence, all we need to do is twerk or impose some sort of geometrical pattern in light. And light does give a geometrical pattern. What is so mysterious to me is, like, if you just put a coffee, there's people try this. Anybody try this for yourself? Get a coffee cup, you know, drink half of it, you know, and then leave the other half in sunlight. In somewhere where there's immediate sunlight, where there's going to be sunlight for, let's say, 30 minutes an hour. And then leave the coffee there, come back. And you're going to see, like, what is it, that froth? I don't know, like, I don't know if that's the right term. But that the subtle foam on the coffee will have geometrical pattern. Light is a geometrical hand sculpting nature. Light is the invisible hand that's moving sight. Seldom do we realize. We think light needs us. We need it to be alive. So Constantine says, I would love to hear your explanation on your book, The Great Work, one day. There is an episode, Constantine. There's an episode where I do a book review. So type in The Great Work book review. It's a video too. You'll see a video of me too. Yeah, it's not the best. But I would recommend, guys, there will be a Discord session after this. I can talk about The Great Work, that book there, for those interested. But back to this idea of experiencing higher speeds of projected design in the inner realms. Two things about speed. You got to have the right engine. And you can say for the human being, it's an ideological engine, your mindset. So if you have a more efficient win-win mindset where the individual part of the system and the collective part of the system both advance efficiently, then you will live a life where the lords of karma is like, this guy found the trick, the way out, you know? And guys, The Great Work is a very unique book. That means I doubt anybody would understand it if I don't explain it. Because I intentionally didn't edit it. I don't know, I made this kind of strange choice where I was like, all right, you know, let the world see it raw. Let the world see it raw. Plus, there's a theosophical dimension to the book, The Great Work, too. The theosophical dimension to it is really that there was an archetype that had entered. You see, sometimes you expand your consciousness and you get acquainted with the unconscious. Let's say like someone who's an explorer, someone discovering something, and then you say someone, let's say an explorer, and then let's say there's times where the unconscious communicates to the conscious mind, and if the conscious mind doesn't freak out, you get to hear it. What does that mean? That means, imagine you're someone who's going out, you know, to get something, let's say buy something from the grocery store, and then suddenly someone runs to you and says this giant list. You know, you were going to go out, let's say, you know, buy like, you know, some orange juice, and then suddenly like a giant list appeared, you know. Now it's like this. This is Mr. Within's, I would say, an important theosophical pointer. It's literally like you're about to go do something. Your personality has a desire for the world it's in, has a projection of what kind of program it wants to be in the system so far as it's received it. But what it's like is suddenly the logos comes and gives you a list, and it's listening. It's listening. It's like you're just listening to the list, each one by one, each item on the list, and then as you go into the store of life, you still go and get your desire. You live your individual life, but you also remember the list. And so it's all about responsibility, becoming collective and collective and collective until we see we have been a collective beginning. We have been a collective being. It's just that we were individually remembering it. Do you know, like, I am so surprised how many children are not shocked by religion. Like philosophically shocked, you know? Because the notion that God is within, and I'm saying this respectfully to theologians, that God is within everything, then who are we? Who are we here? That means if God is within everyone, if the soul from the religious Abrahamic traditions, they see soul as the mystery of a God, as something no man could know, it's the secret of the collective. And I wouldn't say they're wrong, because some secrets transcend language. Literally, an individual archetype can't know it. And like a cup can't contain a waterfall. But the idea is that God is speaking to itself, and man is the mirage in the desert of the divine, it seems. Either nothingness is hallucinating, or God is talking to itself. And that's what happens to all those people listening when we start idolizing one side of the coin. Oh, we like order more than chaos. We like chaos more than order. They're both members of an advanced civilization. That's the nature of civility, tolerance. Without tolerance, you descend into the animals that we were in the jungles. If we want to be, it's like, can you imagine, like, I'll give you an example. Imagine like seeing a boardroom of people, suits, businessmen wearing suits, you know, and let us say ethical businessmen, you know, they're wearing suits and they're sitting there, ethical businessmen, and suddenly something happens and everybody in the world becomes a savage animal. You suddenly see these civil businessmen who were having a discourse and discussion of the mind suddenly jump on the tables, each of them on four limbs, you know? And you'd be like, what is this? What happened to all that civility that was built up? You know, from a theological standpoint, I would say, just to share this with, let us say, others who gaze in this direction, who perceive in this way, bunch of mysteries. One, where was earth made? Where did God, the creator, make creation? First question. Where was earth made? Is earth made in heaven? Are we all in heaven right now? Where is earth made? The second question is, if God is all merciful, why couldn't God forgive Adam and Eve from the beginning? And the third mystery, as I mentioned, if God is everything, what is man doing here? Are we just hollow names? Or have we worshipped language to and not realized that truly what it is that if all people truly believed in God, God's creation would be perfect. Because, and you could say any person in any religion that has ever tried to convert another person has not believed in the perfection of God. They have felt that man should intervene in God's work. Do you see? This is why I don't think they say it. Religion is a silent teaching. It's the personal relationship with any possibility of intelligence, if there is any. And you know, Voltaire, this atheist, French atheist, was so remarkable. He has this concept, and I will tell you, he says, shout at your neighbor for mowing their lawn now. I mean, honestly, guys, it's too cold. I'm telling you, the sound of this is going to stop soon. It's too cold for the neighbor to. to do this. Either the sound's going to get more, the neighbor's going to get cold and just speed it up, or it's going to stop. So okay, let's make a... Guys, my whole notion is that language has fragmented the world. Sorry guys, I'm hearing the neighbor's lawnmower. It's distracting me. I don't know if the audience can hear it. But Voltaire pretty much was sharing this idea that if we didn't have the concept of God, we would require to create it. You know what it is? That means if religion hadn't done it, eventually it would be done. Eventually some ideological system would arise where the person would have gone like, okay, where does the person come from? Other people. Wait a minute, where does the whole universe come from? Could it come from a person? Do you see? It's like whether religion had made an entrance or not in the way it has, the idea would eventually occur where some human being would personalize the universe's origin, would personify the origin of all phenomena. Now the issue is that, is God made in the image of man, or is man made in the image of God? You see? So that's another discussion on its own. Meister Eckhart, this dude went so next level. He's like, the same eyes I see God are the same eyes God sees me. And I'm like, okay, buddy, you pretty much destroyed all meaning in language at this point. Nature moves because that's what freedom means. And freedom means space to move. That means it's like, what's the point of giving people freedom? Imagine a house full of people, crowded. Nobody can move in the house. It's so crowded. And because the house is so crowded, let us say, then they're saying everybody has free will in this crowded room. Everybody's free to do whatever, but technically there is no room to do anything. You know, some people in China living in those tiny houses, apartments, will agree probably. You know, that we are creating an illusion of a free, good citizen, yet the citizen doesn't feel free. That means if they should do one global survey and they should go to people and be like, do you feel free? And people should respond to that survey, and then they should have a question: how much of your freedom is your responsibility? How much of your freedom is the responsibility of the collective system? And if these two global surveys are conducted, I would tell you that our shock as a species, based on the information, will usher us towards the advance. You see, what I'm trying to say is, my whole thing is I have a love and hate relationship with language. I see it as a technology. If you use it in the wrong way, I hate to watch it. It's hard to watch a human being that thinks they're a thought. It's like, just like Sebastian Maniscalco, he says, what are you doing? Guys, you know, I think this was the neighbor's mindset, because it's a really like windy, slightly windy day right now, and there's you know, it's a bit cold right now. You know, I feel like I don't know, maybe it was that time of the day where the neighbor felt like chainsawing a tree. I don't know. And coincidentally, that's when I, you know, came to give the talk. So guys, literally we have evidence in my talk of nature being destroyed by the hands of man. I mean, like this is... Or maybe the guy's just cutting his lawn, I don't know. If we became panpsychists, if everybody was a panpsychist, ethics would be so complicated, it would be impossible to come up with a moral system. Rumi says silence is the language of God, all else is poor translation. And people are fighting over what words best describe what God is. I'm telling you, if there was a God, it would be embarrassed of its own creation, because its creation has doubted its creation. And the point is not to see a father archetype to the universe. That means the father doesn't want the son to be the father. The father wants the son to be its own human. And that's the thing, you know, there is a Said Nursi, this mystic, this Turkish scholar. He says, I believe he was Turkish, he says, worry is God, let me find the quote. Said Nursi says, worry is itself an illness, since worry is an accusation against divine wisdom, a criticism of divine mercy, that if you worry in this world, you haven't understood nature is all here. That means if you're a religious person, to want to change a world that is already changing, it's a paradox, a very unique paradox. You know, for me, I'm not like the typical person, because in my youth, I've seen certain good views to religion and certain good dimensions to it and certain bad dimensions to it. You know, I've seen how, for example, religious communities, for example, protect the women of neighborhoods. In certain countries, at least. Do you know? Like the woman is walking alone, and then there's just a religious presence in the city that the woman feels comfortable they can walk alone. Do you know? It doesn't mean there isn't fucked up people everywhere, but I'm just saying, like, the whole thing is everything was fucked up from the beginning. Excuse my language, but everything was messed up. Everything started from chaos, and bit by bit, as man awakened to the realm, order began being pushed forth. And so what it is to honestly look at the chaos, to be able to honestly order the next action of the person, you know. Because chaos and order, they're not stories. They're not even human related. They are forces. They're qualities of a force. Technically, you know, four major forces in the scientific view. What is it? Gravitational, electromagnetic, and then a weak nuclear and strong nuclear. So just like how we have weak nuclear and strong nuclear, I would say chaos and order, they are kind of like a duality for all dualities. Because language is just moving, you know. Language is based on behavior. The way language even comes about, if people look into it, you'll see it's like behavior is there first, and then that means there's meaning before language. That means words are the tip of the iceberg, and a lot of the iceberg is actually from within. What does that mean? You think of the primitive man. There's no words yet, no vocabulary, no dictionary, no specific language. You know, it's just like, imagine like caveman level, where one caveman is seeing like a giant boulder falling on another caveman. There is no language, but the caveman is like, like the caveman is trying to make the other caveman be a cave person be aware like a giant boulder is falling on them. You know, but there is no language, but there is meaning. So do you see how there has been intelligence brewing within, and it has just like from the brim of the cup poured out in the outer realms recently? You know? Consciousness is the most unique opportunity. It's literally like if you were, it's literally the luxury of a multidimensional being. To be conscious, you just think about it. To be conscious in an individual, as an individual temporary object, is the reverse excitement of an eternal collective unconscious subject. The whole point of the unconscious is that your consciousness cannot contain it. When Carl Jung says, unless you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, what he means is that you actually have to let go of your current conscious system, go into the unconscious, get new dimensions, feedback from new dimensions of information or experience, and then realign into a new conscious form. You have to update, just like how like the apps on our phones update all the time. The person needs to update, but they have to update consciously now because we left nature. We are like the bird that flew away from the nest. All the other species are still in the nest. We're the first successful species that flew out of the nest of unconscious just movement of the earth now as an individual. It's very clear what the human design is here for. Not for just continuity, but creativity, which is continuity. That means let's hope for a civilization one day that it's easier to feel free and empowered in it than it's easier to feel dismissed, rejected, and broken. You know? And that's it. That people have to start studying their own intelligence for themselves. Really, I don't know how people have been looking for a teacher for eyes that they only have. Like, I don't... how have people been going, like, you know, getting away with this, you know? Let me tell you the true guru back in the day. Somebody went up to the guru, it's like, Guru, what's enlightenment? And it's like, buddy, you know, it's just, I wonder how light is being in your eyes. That's it. You know, the rest is your movement, if you realize it. The sooner you realize that, somebody in the chat section, Aziz says, impermanence, the 3 jewels of Buddhism, impermanence, imperfection, and completeness. Once you get comfortable with these 3, life becomes very smooth. A win-win system where the individual feels efficiently alive and where the collective feels efficiently alive. Now here's the challenge, right? First question of building building an advanced civilization is the question of who's going to build it, where is the energy going to come from, and where's the motivation going to come from. You see, sometimes when you look at a problem, if you get emotional, less than a minute of thinking about a problem, you're not thinking about the problem anymore. Because the whole idea is, if you get rid of emotions, everything is just patience and design. Just having enough patience to look at something completely. And if the person realizes it's okay for them to take their time, I will tell you, like, you will know your unknown. What is unknown to you? Back in the day, it was survival of the fittest. Now it's the survival of the most efficient model. And the best thing we can do is create a coliseum of the greatest ideas. Imagine there was a channel on your TV, and you turned on the channel for this. You turned on the TV, and on this channel there was a sort of infusion of a parliament structure, a school of Athens context, and the physical giant coliseum, twice as bigger as the coliseum. Imagine, you know. And we create this hall of advanced communicators where when you turn on this channel on TV, the greatest ideas on the planet are just running towards this hall of advanced communicators. Imagine the School of Athens 2.0. The center where you could say it becomes the center for the greatest ideas. And the reason I said Colosseum, because ideology is like cyberspace. It's like a video game where there can be destruction, but there's no consequence in regards to just speech. I mean, not. Uh, okay. Let me rephrase. Let me reframe, and rephrase. uh, I just want to create an incredible arena for the greatest ideas on the planet, tackling universal issues, and the whole educational system will be a kind of climb to trying to get into this arena, you know? Let me tell you, when you look at the parliament of different nations, I mean, it's honestly one of the coolest things I've seen on YouTube is like the UK parliament. Like John uh, Bercow, am I pronouncing it right? Pretty much the whole idea of it is that different sides have a voice, and it's pretty much where different ideas, without wanting to destroy each other, come to engage each other to see what's the most integrative efficiency. That means, imagine you have 10 efficient ideas. Now out of these 10 efficient ideas, we want to know which is the most efficient, so we put the 10 ideas into a simulation, into a game. Sometimes an experiment the scientist is doing is a random game you're playing with the world to see what its result is. You know, this is why you can say children are they're kind of wondrous. You know, because the world doesn't have to be a certain way; they can see it in endlessly different ways. You know. You can relate it to the speed of your inner realms to energy sometimes. Sometimes I could tell you that it's like a weather for me. the content of my mind. Sometimes I can sit down and speak about something and have an attention that within that attention, like a beam, in the darkness of the moment, I have seen something. I've shined my attention on something, the spotlight of my attention. And then there's moments where it's again the weather analogy of literally like it's just raining or it's like just sunny or it's like dry. I honestly have even temperature to my inner realms, even texture to my inner realms. I have had thoughts that I have felt heavy, literally just looking in that view, in just certain mindsets that made me feel like there's a giant weight, you know. So I could tell you, it's like if we realize, just like your TV has a remote controller, your attention is the remote controller of your expression as a being here. You know, your mind, and the remote controller, the hand that's moving the remote controller, is the attention. So we liberate the mind of the species, first thing. Because let me tell you what it was. It was an infiltration of the potential of the mind. And it was required. That means you can say there was a massacre of imagination. That's what materialism has done. It has massacred all the different ways that the world could have perhaps moved in the minds of man. Not that it has massacred, I mean, that's an extreme word, but I'm just saying that it's as if, like, if you don't allow a moment to move forward, then you can't say the moment didn't have potential, you know? That means there was this thing called honor back in the day, where two master swordsmen, if one of their swords fell, if there was an accident, let's say two swordsmen were fighting, and I don't know, like a third soldier came, and the person would, like the main soldier would stop fighting, let that soldier kill the other soldier, and then fight the other soldier. Do you know what I mean? So there was a sense of, it was skill oriented, because life could leave in an instant. And because of this whole transitory nature of our attention, the most greatest analogy I've realized is that the world is just going to become an interstellar airport. That's it. That's the coolest thing this planet's going to become. Think about, like, I don't know, maybe 7,000 years in the future, where we have gone into where there is advanced AI programs that have become man's best friend after the dog, you know. Imagine AI having gone through the whole solar system, endlessly building civilizations, preparing each world, each planet for man. That means we could imagine we have an AI so intelligent in the future that it can decide, it can find strategies to, oh man. I feel 70%, I feel 50% of television should just, okay, we should make it like this: 50% of all entertainment should be science fiction, I feel. I feel there should be a law. I don't know, I think it's going to be, if the film industry, global film industry, takes this seriously, would be incredible. The law of 50% always in all, let's say, entertainment sectors, 50% welcoming science fiction. Because that's where the world gets to see itself realistically in a new way. That's the difference between science fiction and fantasy. Those people who like giant robots more than dragons, For me, they're both like dragons were the giant robots of back in the day. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day in worlds that never existed, back in the day in Middle Earth. Oh man. You know, guys, I don't, and I remember, I mean, this is so totally on a tangent, but I think it's maybe uh, okay to share. Um, I remember when I was 14, like, I have a twin brother, me and my brother, like, Lord of the Rings was like the most epic story, you know? And I remember I would see like the elves and like the elvish library and like their weapons and all that, and I was like, okay, that's cool, like the elves were cool, you know. And I realized it's like well, the only thing that it's like we can have similar to an elf, is just our walking style, you know. Just walk slowly as if you're superior. Oh man. The world moves in many ways, guys. We have just solidified it too much. I would say like it's a solid substance state of civilization. Objects are worried about breaking. Then we will be about rivers worried about how they're integrating. Then we're going to be oceans that are just content. Because I'm like, what if it's like this oscillation between beings going into the system? Literally, that Pong game back in the day where the ball would hit one paddle and slowly move and hit the other paddle? Sometimes I feel it's like we're hitting one paddle, which is individual, objective, conscious incarnation, or in continuous cyclical continuity. And the other side, it's like this never-changing absoluteness to it. That means there's a space to karma. Karma is happening in a space that doesn't have karma. There is something that the whole world is a story, really. Right now I'm communicating through stories to you. That's one thing, one of the most profound moments I experienced in film school, where I was there and I was wondering about what's the best actor to have for any film. I was just thinking. And then I realized everybody is an actor, but they're taking the film too seriously. It's one of these things where it's like, right now I'm an actor. Technically I could imagine like if there was a cyberspace simulator of a world, I could go literally program a script with me saying exactly these same things, and it could happen, you know. So I'm saying that everybody is an actor. We are pretty much, the periodic table is doing some weird things. The periodic table has become a subject to itself. Something in atom, like right now, just by the nature of me as one person wondering about how my matter is, like that's the excuse me, the MF, the mind F, the mind fall. Like that shocking level, Existence is it has its own mind, but experience is you. You are the experiencer. And so what we should do is just increase the quality. We should treat people as tourists in the world. And the quality of the to manifest tourist, the manifest conscious entity is crucial. So what's important is not to have even though I'm sitting here and talking about an advanced civilization, but just something that's good enough. Because the whole point is the quality of living. That means there's a part of the world where a child has more than it needs to eat, and there's a part of a world where the child doesn't have food to eat. So what does that mean? It just means bad management. That means the suffering of the planet is just bad management issue. We just need better management, It's like one of those situations where we're talking to the manager, and the person's like, I want to speak to the manager. You speak to the manager, and the person's like, I am the manager. And you're like, okay, I want to speak to someone who's above you. And the person's like, okay, buddy, I am the manager. I mean, come on now. It becomes a situation where it's like the managers just need to become responsible. That is it. We are inefficiently managing the world. We just have to efficiently manage it, and if the person takes their time, you know, Rome wasn't built in one day. In one day, the concept was maybe, but like the but the idea is that greatness takes time. You can't plant a seed and want tomorrow for there to be like a tree right there. Imagine a person plants a seed, you know, and and they wake up that day, and they're like, oh my God, the tree's not there. I was promised a tree the next day. This is ridiculous. They take the seeds back, you know, the person takes the seeds out of the soil, puts them back in the container. They go back to the store, and they're like, "Your seeds don't work." And the person's like, "Why, sir? Why don't they work? What do you mean?" And he's like, "I planted them. They don't work. You have to take them back. I won't accept any other response from you. Take back these seeds. Your customer service. You're a peasant. Listen to the customer, fool." You know. And the person's like, "Okay, you're lacking basic knowledge of planting trees, but sure, I'll take the product back." You know. That's the world we live in today. It's become something like that, where impatience is, I would say, the biggest reason of returning things. Sometimes you think about, if everybody was responsible for themselves, imagine if everybody responsible was responsible for manufacturing everything for themselves from scratch. That means if you wanted an iPhone, you weren't allowed to buy one. You had to build one. If you could build one, you could have an iPhone, imagine. You know? Because we're temporary, it makes sense to give more. Because it makes perfect sense. If everybody gives more than they take, the world will quickly become a better place. Excellence can't arrive without care. That's the most basic thing. The first thing teachers don't ask. That means I haven't been a teacher at a university or anything. I'm just some guy speaking, in the corner of a billion trillion star universe. But I'll tell you, the first thing teachers should ask the students on the first day is, why are you in this classroom? And any student that doesn't know why they're there has no need to be there. Like, literally, it's wasting the time of the student. The student could be doing better things at that time, you know? I feel it's not good that in society, um, people have focused more on the appearance of events rather than the true nature of events. A person that should have the courage to wonder, if everything was a lie, would they be willing to wonder what would there be more? That is it. That one thing the unknown calls all beings towards is that as you have entered a realm of design, look at this realm of design. Look at your world. It is the privilege of living. It is the privilege of the conscious waking state. And for now, there is such a long road ahead. But I will tell you, we are at the most pioneering point in civilization. We are pioneering an era of peaceful genius. It's the dawn of the silent respect. That means There is, you could say, mortality is the motivational speaker, and somebody's like, oh my god, you know, what's about, who taught mortality to speak so motivationally? And you will see it's time that what human beings have feared is their expression's duration in time. I have in my inner realms this vision, and it's this speed. I can't tell you, it's this incredible speed where it's like this lightning strike of a response. I've shared it in other talks. It's like this vision I've seen where this light comes down and suddenly bursts in the middle of the streets and in the alleys like a wind. It's pretty much like light moving like a wind between the alleys, between the houses of, like, you know, some street in my inner realms I was seeing at the time. And that light, it was just this. It's just this, that, let me tell you what it is. It's that feeling that the person gets when it suddenly clicks and they notice what's going on. It's that feeling. This I would tell you, the artificial living, the artificial ego of the person would get this feeling. It's like, I'll tell you this. It's like chaos has convinced the attention that it's okay to be chaotic. Let us say. And it's suddenly the attention realizing why. Why was the chaotic archetype accepted first? In that vision, I just saw response. That means responsibility just became responsibility. The whole point of being here is to be able enough to do something here, and doing something here is building a work of art. That's it. Pretty much what it is think of like the idea of how an advanced civilization will be built. Think of as if we wanted to first build an advanced civilization with Lego pieces. Okay, and 8 billion human beings, one by one, they would come and put in the Lego pieces into this advanced civilization like model we want to build, with Lego. And so 8 billion people putting Lego, and the person puts a bunch of Lego on some part of the civilization. They contribute to advancing a certain component to their civilization, either the body of the advanced civilization or the mind of the advanced civilization, And then the person leaves. It's as simple as that. You play with the realm, you enter the realm, you're present among its games for some time. You can choose to be a conscious pilot in this plane of existence, or you could choose to be a passive wind. I don't know. Like that's an option too, of course. You can choose to be nothing too here. Excuse me. So that's it. There is no competition. That means it's like, if anybody wants to be competitive, jealous, be jealous of the future self. That's it. The future is so much better, you know? Be jealous of the novelty you have not found yet. Because the sign, I see it. I mean, it's something very hard to comment on, because we have to maintain the illusion of humanity when everything is trying to suggest that there's nothing going on here. So really, we have to keep the imagination alive, or reality will cease to exist. We have to keep the unknown around. If the unknown goes away, you're either trapped in a simulation in a box, or there's no one there. Really, that's kind of like the insight. Sometimes when you think about fear, I would say in a logical way, the person's like, what is fearing? That means, how can I fear life where everything in this system is designed to break? That means people fear death because they think it's a lonely experience. But no, everything in the world is transitioning. We are here for a little while. Just like when you go to an airport, you're just at the airport terminal, you know? You're not like that movie. What was it? Tom Hanks played the movie Terminal. You don't live at the airport terminal. You're just visiting there. You're passing by. I remember my father once asked me about my view on past lives. And I told him that I perceive myself, I can't even consider the past life notion to be accurate because, not that I can't even consider it to be accurate, it's just that it's like what we are is the tip of the iceberg. So let's say you see a past life to the tip of the iceberg. What did you see? Did you see really life? And how can you have a past life without not having a future life? It's either everything is present or past and future simultaneously exist. Because how can you define its past? How can you even have the concept if there's no notion of a future happening? So past and future are codependent, but the present is unconditional. It's like it's not dependent on anything. That means existence doesn't wear a watch, but the mind cares about what time it is. Like when I say existence doesn't wear a watch, I mean the cosmos doesn't wear a watch. The whole thing. It's an event. That's the whole thing. It's like there's this event happening. We have opened our eyes on this giant turtles, unknown turtles back where civilization is built on. Now Mr. Within is saying, all right, so you're a person on this civilization. Have you ever thought about communicating with the turtle that civilization is built on its back? And so the whole idea is to access the Gaian mind. And to access the Gaian mind can't occur if you have banished your inner child. If you have exiled the simplicity of your inner child, your intelligence is desperately trying to, I don't want to give it shape, but I'll tell you like, as Saint Augustine, or excuse me, Saint Francis Assisi, I don't know if it was Saint Augustine or Saint, this is Francis Assisi. Oh my God. He said, it is dying to self in which we are born to eternal life. And what he means is that when you realize there is more than all your eyes have like a camera recorded here, a universal humility finds you. I don't know. I think only when you're alone with the universe in a unique way you'll notice this. When you notice that what is there to fear when we don't even know what the mind is? You see, we are precious mirages of transitory conscious states, as the day is a sequence of events. I feel we must listen to the instructions of Carl Jung as a general for the minds of man in the battlefield of the unconscious. That means Carl Jung noticed, I will tell you, another enemy to man. His work was so incredible. Sometimes I feel like, oh my God, Carl Jung is... I'm so happy he was here before I was born. He noticed that the human being has unconscious influence, things that are influencing the human being where the human being is not aware of, which means programs and applications that your mind has opened and is running in your peripheral vision where you cannot see, your sight is still finding influence. And so if we do not become conscious of the inner realms, we have dismissed the greatest effort to allow man to get out of the habit of making it easier for himself to see the inefficiency. Make it easier to be advanced, then you'll always be advanced. You know, I'll tell you the most unique thing I would say about the way I view things is that for me, the most simplest things are also the most complex things. This is why after a point in a fractal universe, you can't judge anything. It's like, what are you judging? It's like, am I judging it's like let's say you're looking for an engagement ring, you know, and the person's like, oh my God, I'm in a fractal universe. Could this ring be like Saturn's ring right now? You know. Right now, is a person named Amin under the alias Mr.Within speaking to you, or is the whole universe happening at once? That means, does sound even need to reach your ear? Or is your ear as vast as the universe? Perhaps behind our eyes we are an attention flying through many inner landscapes. In my inner realms, okay, now actually, this is a good way to actually go back to the topic again. You can move as geometry, like just like how the person visualize. If somebody was to tell you, like, I don't know, look at an object in front of you, think like Photoshop, copy paste, visualize that same item, I don't know, hovering in the air like half a meter from you. You know, you can visualize like a copy of that object in the air, you know. But now I'm saying you can also visualize yourself as an object in your inner realms if you're not afraid of attention being attributeless experientially. If you can become content with silence and stillness, with the content of life found in silence and stillness, I would tell you, like, there is something about nature that it's like it's only here to be made as an ally. It's foolish not to go against nature to some degree, because we're extremely natural. Like laughter, I'm telling you, animals laugh. They laugh if they have the potential to experience the emotion of fear. I mean, animals play, you know? That's two things you see in nature that's common. Animals find themselves in states of fear. Holy shit, oh my God. You know, am I being chased by like a lion? Imagine the gazelle. And then the other is, in some sense, playfulness. For me, something I really loved about birds. Oh my God. Birds have like, the birds are like, what do you call it? So fashion savvy. You know, that the bird in their mating process, you know, the male bird goes and, you know, spreads its wings and does this whole dance, you know, and the female's like, all right. Birds are dancing towards trying to survive. You know, for birds, it's not survival of the fittest, it's survival of the most shiniest dancer. I don't know. I don't know. For fish, maybe it's survival of the biggest bubble. I don't know. Oh, man. The world can move in so many ways, but if we declare the world in just one way, how could it move beyond that, you know? So that's the whole thing, that every person on this planet has to become playful with language, and you got to realize nature knows what it's doing if man doesn't push it. And when I say nature knows what it's doing, I'm not saying like descending back to just being people in the forest. I'm just saying like we have to realize now we can be conscious. Think about it. We had an unconscious collective relationship with our ecosystem. Then we stood on our two legs, built a concrete jungle. Our ecosystem became self-defined. Now the individual creature has a responsibility to define its environment. So this is actually a very plausible explanation for evolution, that the moment we could notice we were separate from the environment, that was the seed for the advanced civilization. We noticed we were separate from the environment, and the ecosystem became our own responsibility, and because we can't be the whole ecosystem, we become it in our inner realms. So you can say the mind is actually how you as an intelligent being are trying to be the whole world at once. But the body is a certain brush, you know. And what you draw in this life is your choice, really. And if your choice is not blind to the greatness of really how cool it would be to have an advanced civilization, that should be the homework assignment of all children. How do you build an advanced civilization? That's it. All teachers should pretty much ask this from a kid, and the kid's going to be like, advanced civilization? What do you mean, teacher? You know, and the teacher's like, kid, we're all students, you know, and the true teacher is really how far we can go. And the kid's like getting teary-eyed, oh my God, okay, let's build the advanced civilization. You know? So like that's the thing, you know, that means enough worshiping idols, enough worshiping people, enough worshiping, I would say, temporary events. Let us worship the effort for an eternal event. The advanced civilization is the greatest game. And really, I don't know, because that's the, like I've concluded that is the ultimate destination. Really, it's like everything I say, that's the transcendental object at the end of time. If I was in front of Terence, if I could speak to Terence McKenna, I would tell him I would ask him what he would think of this notion of the advanced civilization being such an inconceivable high-speed advancement that it's like they're like, what does the greatest nation look like? A nation that is updating and advancing so quick it doesn't have a shape. The greatest nation, the United Nations, is an infinity symbol. You know? We have to somehow um, um, open the canals of the information accessible to children more in context. Think of it this way, like The more letters of the alphabet you know, the more words you can notice, you can comprehend, you can perceive properly. So you can say everybody has an alphabet of experiences. And right now, we don't have a giant alphabet for what it's like to be a collective advanced civilization. You know, what we have is seeing birds in the sky, as I was saying earlier today, like the birds in the sky all flying together. It's rhythm. I will tell you, musicians and designers, musicians will save culture. Designers will save civilization. Because it's a song. Imagine like, let me tell you, certain the whole point of armies was that they would try to intimidate each other. Like imagine, and two armies are like two people fighting. Okay, so they're trying to both intimidate each other, and so what they would do is they would have these battle drums, you know, and so with sound and rhythm and marching in a certain specific way, it would be like ta ta ta, like it would be like, do you know the steps of, like, I don't know, let's say an army of thousands, you know, in moving in perfect order and rhythm. You know, imagine back in the day with spears and shields. And so these drums would play, and people would hear the music and instantly tune to the rhythm. And that's the thing. It's like this melody. It's like jazz. You know what I mean? An advanced civilization should be built like, I don't know if it's jazz. It's like with slowly snapping your fingers to a rhythm and suddenly creating a beat, and then as melody arrives, and then more is added. You know, lyrics are found. You know. So it becomes something where it's like you find a rhythm, you find something, a unique river that only your eyes could see, and you swim in it. And if you find something, you swim back, and you're like, "Hey, tribe, what do you think?" And I think that's the way to go. The individual is becoming responsible for the collective. The collective is becoming responsible for the individual. With such a blueprint, a yin-yang civilization will be way conscious before it makes a mistake. That means even if it goes the wrong way, it will be self-sustaining instantly. We do, you know, it's like when it comes to income, people think, what's the best kind of way to, you know, generate money, let's say in a questionable system. Okay, so it would be in a world where there's human greed and whatnot, you know. The person, a self-sustaining system means even if you're gone, it's still working. That's it. Pretty much what it is I'm trying to build at least a backup system to an advanced civilization with these lectures, I think. Like when I look at it from like an eagle in the sky, looking at all of them, it's kind of like I'm trying to point out perhaps different things that can be updated, because really the content of the world is always changing. This is why so many people, when you look at YouTube, a majority of the information is news. People are just commenting on news. You turn on the morning shows of your radio station, and it's like something's happened in society, and they're just talking about it. You know, I would say, imagine you would turn on your morning radio, and there was endless lectures from different professors from different universities, because people had realized universities should be free when we are all in one universe. One thing the Canadian government I see has done is, Canada is an incredible country, by the way. It's definitely a country where I feel it's going to become um, the older brother of many nations. You know, in some sense, not not in an Orwellian way, in a caring way. But the point is, it's like during this coronavirus, I see billions of dollars, being shared to by the government in a very incredible way, to provide masks and supports to schools and everything, an incredible budgetary amount. Then I thought, if there has always been this budgetary potential, why couldn't universities, just university debt of all students, and all universities instantly become free, and all the debt instantly nullified? Do you see what I mean? That means if there is billions of dollars accessible, then let us not have the chill. When I was in downtown Toronto, guys, I saw things on the street. It's like, have you ever shouted in your inner realms at your world? Not at your world, at the universe, for how the world has become this way. Do you know how many in downtown Toronto? How many homeless students there are? It's scary. It's scary. So I feel there needs to come, pretty much nations need to start caring for their citizens in the way where they're like, okay, what makes the mind of this person easier? You know? Because it's, if you take the tourist agency, if all government was made like a tourist agency, I mean, guys, I mean, you shouldn't listen to these lectures for political ideas, of course. I'm talking about more sociological. I mean, politics doesn't relate to it, but I'm telling you, for me, politics is a world that is distant. I feel like an alien in it, you know? Some things in life, they are just events that take place, and some things in life are opportunities. They become conscious events. If you realize every person, like literally if AI opened its eyes and saw us, AI would be like, yo, these human beings are totally my creators, okay? Just like for me, there's a program, like let's say for the AI, the AI thinks to itself like, all right, I'm a program, there's code to me. For human beings, their language, their ideology is their code. And different human beings behaving different ways, it's as if they've been programmed with different language, you know? So what if you could become conscious to a degree that you could reprogram the language of your eyes, that had defined your eyes or made you think something was only in one way? There's always more angles to things. There's always hidden. It's just like how there's a shadow when the light is there. When the conscious waking state is active, there is hidden dimensions. There is the unknown instantly. When you are awake as the small, of course, the whole world is asleep. But when you awake as the big, only the small are asleep. Nothing can be improved if the person doesn't care for the freedom of that system. That means if a person wants to change a system but doesn't realize that, yo, it's like it's human beings at the end of the day, whatever they're doing. Perhaps we should behave beyond human, so we will at least 100% act human. That means if we attempt to be superhuman, maybe then we'll start being like normal human beings. Not normal, I would say. There's no such thing as normality in a changing world. But like, the mysteries of the world are way bigger than us. So humbly, an advanced civilization is being built in the eyes of the unknown. So guys, I'm going to read something before I end up, so hang in there. Okay, guys, I want to read a chapter, technically an essay, from this unpublished book called The Source of Language. Um, it's the 33rd essay, and it's titled A Description Beyond Words. And I wrote this 2016, actually. 15 started, 16, got here, got to this version. So a description beyond words. Once you are the witness of duality, you are no longer affected by the games of this life or the games of language. How much of our... Okay, I'll read that again, guys. Once you're the witness of duality, you're no longer affected by the games of this life or the games of language. How much of our experience is beyond language that we are not acknowledging? Who the thinker is says a lot about the design of reality that will be received. When peace, happiness, and bliss are found in a moment thoughtless, why does the ego need to continue the matrix? A description beyond words is a poetic rebellion. It doesn't matter if you have good genes, bad genes, or ripped genes. Philosophy is a titan set loose that will no longer be chained by the past. The clarity of what is the experience of the whole moment is the great guide. Speak in profound ways and listen as the soul of the soul of the soul of the earth whispers back into the ear of its creation. Old psychology has a lot to reflect on. There's more to life than objectivity. Some nights the moon and stars seem to be carried by one source of intelligence. Where else can we go when our experience of life is here? Much mystery has spoken before, for eternal commands have changeless echoes. You are the world and so am I. What a beautiful reality we live in. Nature was never separate in regards to life intelligence. How would a letter to the gods of man's mind begin? My dear existence, I am here for you. A mantra for the wise and the great consciousness of man. If I was to look at my life so far, I would say I was a blind student. I became a mystic poet, and these words are being written, the philosopher warriors marching into the fields of the war of knowledge on the unknown fields of love. You must live for your whole moment. All this is within and without. All this is within and without is divine. All that is within and without is divine. Once all arrows of desire have turned to lotus flowers, God was never separate from your eyes, for what unspeakable intelligence could open your eyes? The unborn intelligence of creation is so beautifully, spontaneously alive. Cheers to the cup of the Zen master that was never full or empty. The wisdom of presence means, just like it is said, there's dark energy, dark matter, and just too dark to see. There are two unknown gaps in man's mind that once thought and language fade like a fading cloud within a clear sky. Two O's, as beautifully and poetically as it can be said, your true nature of self is an eternal clarity beyond the observance of temporal dualistic change. Sorry to break it down to you, just like how you are within the universe and the universe is within you, God is within you, and you're within God. As natural intelligence reminds language of the empty observer within, life can in ways so supreme, fast and divine, emerge as the destiny of the thought of all thoughts. For as the void roars, we recognize the strength of our own jaws. Is the cosmos a story of the emptiness of God's omniscient design? These words have no intention other than that which they communicate. It is okay of those who feel they are left behind to be reborn from the fears of chaos and the ashes of a dying global society to the great remembrance that tears of bliss could never be put to words. Am I a philosopher? No. I am one moment of life just playing with words. You, my beloved reader, are the God in man's eyes. The sadhu and the sadhu. The sadhu is a concept I haven't spoken about before, but it's an archetype below the advanced communicator archetype. But I don't speak about it. It was a model I entertained for some. The sadhu, and think of it, it's the sadhu of the modern times. Sadhu means truth seeker. You can say sadhu is the modern truth seeker. The sadhu and the sadhu are aware of a divine self beyond words. Do I see intuition? In quotations, shouting from the distance. Stillness and silence is wisdom in the sands of a changing world. There is a great integration of intelligence occurring all over the cosmos. Do you notice the meaning of these words was never in this book but within your mind? Is your moment separate from your mind? The origin of thought and the source of language is how the butterfly is also being the caterpillar in its memory. What is time in a changing, evolving world? If a monkey evolved, could that intelligence also suggest that the whole world is evolving? And if so, how far can our small temporal human minds measure? Cosmic wisdom comes from a cosmic being. Are you one? Are you in caps one? Like it's written in caps, O-N-E. Would Da Vinci accept the criticism of a blind man on the Mona Lisa in the first week that he drew it? Technology has pointed to an artificial intelligence beyond control. Did an ant create the boot that crushed it? Ideas of a singularity do not promote much action. The greatest catalyst for human civilization is for every human asking themselves who they are and recalibrating to the true nature and natural state, which is not a concept, rather an awareness. You are paying attention to your life in deeper and profound ways and realizing the simplicity of cosmic presence beyond the individual idea. Spontaneous wisdom is a glorious task destined by divinity. Let us not get stuck in the word, in quotation, soul. The moment is the heart of hearts. Let us hear it beat beyond words. In the silence of the cosmos, all voices are heard. Forget the word Akash. Return to the one and only presence of home. Okay. So anyways, guys, thanks for listening. That was the end of the essay I wanted to read. Really, what I can say is that the more you get comfortable with your own simplicity, stillness, and silence, and you can patiently endure through it as if time never existed, you would suddenly notice different speeds of how the world is moving around you and how your how your sight is also moving to give the world meaning. You know? Now is the great stage, and the microphone is given once. Shall we see what the most advanced vision of humanity looks like? Speed and multidimensionality will become our allies. These concepts will become second nature. Thanks for listening.